Okay. Well, I've been guaranteeing people that if they attend the conference, they're going to jump a minimum of 100 timelines.
100 timelines. Wait,
Minimum
100 lifelines?
timelines. So we've got all these different timeline branches that are going off, all heading towards the golden age
Okay.
versus the age of chaos. So you'll get closer to the golden timeline by coming to the conference, just because of all the people that are going to be there. And then I think I'm telling people to like notice their reality, because they're going to actually see some pretty weird stuff going on, like glitches in the matrix.
I can't, man. I can't do any more weird shit than what I've been experiencing the past few months. I mean, it's great that you decided you were available today. I have family in town. There are actually a few out in the living room, so I closed my door and locked it. Your first thing, let me just hit this real quick. I'll be like Rob. Shout out to Rob, Typical Skeptic Podcast.
Check one, check two.
So it saves me. I think I'm going a little crazy. You say we might jump some timelines if we go to this IMEC, which we'll get into. I have a little flyer thing for it, a little screenshot to plug that. I haven't ruled it out yet, but I'm supposed to meet up with some college friends for Labor Day, so we'll see what happens. But as you texted me today and said you were free, I've been going a little crazy lately, because I see a lot of names lately that I'm like, that is not the name that I remember. Like that's not the name. I mean, I've seen it on athletes. I turn into ESPN or something, and this guy signs a contract, and I'm like, that's not his freaking name. Like, and I'm seeing it often. And then when you said you had some name changes, I said that's perfect, because I'm going a little nuts here with my memory, which is pretty flawless, I may say. I can remember instances. I can remember things that happened 10 years ago. I can remember little memory jots that when I think Chad had somebody on his show recently that was talking about self-awareness, and I made some notes, and I was like, that's really good. Self-awareness, knowing who you are, knowing what you perceive, knowing your discernment is a big step in waking up, in my opinion. And I started having flashbacks of this time where some lady told me in 2012 or 2013, she said, as an employee, I was not very self-aware. And I said, to be honest, it's not, I'm very self-aware. I'm always trying to be perfect, trying to correct myself, trying to learn. And the ironic part was her and somebody else was interviewing. Well, it was me. It was another lady, one of her pupil employees, my mentor, supposedly. And she said that I wasn't self-aware. And I said, maybe you don't realize what happened in the interview the other day. Me and this lady, I was in training to be a district manager, and I was almost done. And me and this mentor at this company were sitting there interviewing a person for a regular customer service job, like $8 an hour, $9 an hour, whatever. And, when she was done talking, she said, don't let this guy, catch you off guard. You're doing well. You don't have to be nervous around him. And I looked at her like, I don't think you're not reading the room here. And I asked him, I said flat out, I was like, are you okay with, is it me? He goes, no, it's her. And I was like, I'm not the one that has an issue with self-awareness, but so I can remember these things, but these names are escaping me. These names are like, they keep changing on me, and I'm kind of going a little nuts. So anyway, with that, welcome to the show. This should be a good talk, because I have some things to speak about with you. And with that, how you doing?
I'm doing good. The name people's names, same thing with here. It's like, that's not the way that their name was spelled before. And the one that popped into my reality the other week was someone named Condoleezza Rice. And she was the Secretary of State during the time that George W. Bush was president.
And that's how you spell it, correct? The way that it's spelled now?
Well, I don't know. Maybe we should go to Wikipedia and find out. Can you call that up on the screen? Because
So here's how I got this. We're going to minimize ourselves, and I'm going to do that. Wait, let me get rid of this real quick. So this is how I'm going to do it for this stream. I think it should work just fine. So there's the Wikipedia.
Yeah. So
I'm going to leave that frozen. I can't zoom in though. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So if you look at the top, it's got 2 E's and 2 Z's. it makes her name
Oh, wow.
Condoleezza, like, to me, really different. So I saw this. There was some kind of a headline about her that came up on the news a week or so ago. And I'm like, oh, they spelled her name wrong. It turns out they spelled her name correctly in this timeline. So, and then what does that mean? So when people have name changes, is that literally the same person, or are we dealing with another version of them from another timeline? And I believe we're dealing with another version of them from a different timeline. So, and the name is a key indicator of that. What do
Yeah.
you think?
She's really smart. She's very successful. I've never heard her name ever mentioned Condoleezza. It's always been Condoleezza. So yeah, I think that would be something that would have stuck out in people that I've talked to or people that I have seen or mentioned, that her name wasn't Condoleezza. And again, you can mispronounce it, but 2 E's and 2 Z's. That's not Lisa. That's not Condoleezza. That's Condoleezza.
Yeah, exactly. So, and in the past, I've saw her on the news countless times. When that was in, I think, the early 2000s. So, what was things that were going on with Iraq and all that kind of stuff. So on the news all the time, saw her name all the time, and now her name is different. So,
do you remember it being Condoleezza or Condoleezza or Condoleezza? How do you how?
Yeah, I'll put it this way: it definitely wasn't 2 E's and 2 Z's. I think it was just EZZA. So, in any event, the 2 E's and the 2 Z's next to each other just don't look right. But that's just like this is just like one of so many clues to show us, what this reality is, and this reality is not what we think that it is, or what we've been taught that it is. What is this reality? I talk about it being a game. I talk about us being in a type of mainframe computer that some people have called the demiurge. And, that's why, like, there's the perception of Earth. Is it flat? Is it a globe? Is it a cube? Is it donut Earth? Like, there are all these different things, and it could be all of them. It's just like what your perspective is. There's nothing wrong. It's just how it's being projected to you and what your current perspective is. So, yeah. So that's just part of it. And then I've been getting other clues too about the whole game concept that's coming up as Mandela effects and things I've never known before. One was, I sent you a photo of a painting by Salvador Dali, and it's called Corpus Hypercubus. And I don't know if you've got that one available to show.
I have it in order, so let's hope that there it is. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
That's it. Okay. So this is in order.
Okay. So this is one of Salvador Dali's most famous paintings that I never heard of until like about a month or so ago. And it's really interesting because it shows the Christ on what's called a hypercube or a tesseract. And the whole concept is the unfolding of the cube. And the cube represents time and how we're now going from a 3D cube to a 4D tesseract or hypercube. But what's really interesting about this as well, because there's a whole aspect of starting to understand our reality better and what time is, but the Christ is floating above a checkerboard. So if you look at the bottom, there's a checkerboard, and those could represent different, let's say, frequency squares that he's on, and that's how you're observing, and that's the frequency you're resonating at. Checkerboard, chessboard, games. So the thought is that could this painting by Salvador Dali be a clue, another clue to what our reality is? And it's basically a game, and where we are, in that game, almost like the bottom of the unfolded cube, or the cross as it's depicted, are like over the crosshairs of whatever checkerboard, whatever piece of the game that we're on. So all these things are starting to come together. And then there's a couple other things related to this too, we'll talk about too, that are all kind of starting to like give us like more clues that there's a legit game going on, and there's chess moves going on by different factions.
Now you're speaking my language. All right. So one of the things that I want to talk to you about, because I had this idea that floated through my head, is that exactly what you just said is what kind of game is going on and who's using this chessboard. And I think often we say that, and I'm not trying to slander what you just said, because you're correct. That's what we say. It's what kind of chessboard are we playing on? What kind of game is this? But I think we're really missing a potential, and I'll say potential because I don't know if it's right or wrong. It is a potential discussion point, and that is who's using the chessboard and how many games can be played on this one chessboard. Because now we're starting to talk about frequencies and self-awareness and the vibration and people playing different games on the same board or the same earth or the same visual construct. And there are so many games that can be played. For instance, the Soul Trap could be a game being played by certain people. And we could be doing the Love and Light game. We could be doing the Ascension game, or the Get Out of This Level Up game. I've heard you mentioned in the past few months about this could potentially be a game that we have to wake up from to ascend to the next level of the game. And that made me think.
Yeah. So to answer one of your questions, who created this game? The answer is we did. We created this game. And it's the most difficult game in the universe. And what's happening now is actually a tryout for an even bigger game. So if you can't wake up in this game, there's no way, you're not going to be allowed into the big one. So this is actually, there's something that's up and coming that's even more important than this. But that's another story. Yeah. So basically, you mentioned soul traps, right? Because that's a big topic for people. You know, are there soul traps? And yes, there have been soul traps, but I'm in the other understanding from what I tune into with the Akashic Records that we're now in our last time loop, which means all soul traps have been removed. So when you go to bed at one night and you don't wake up and you die, like you're not going to be like teased back into this reality again. All the soul traps are over, but it's up to us now to actually be able to get to a certain point so that we can like graduate this game. So there's definitely a lot of things going on. And I talk about how Mandela effects reveal that, like I think we've talked about this before, but the Mandela effect of the Looney Tunes, you know, that is a way of revealing what's going on from TOONS to TUNES, and how that changed, and the difference between what a tune is, a TOON, and also tunes, TUNES, like you can actually fine tune a piano, for example, or tune into a frequency station. And how the Looney Tunes song is like a big indicator about this. Overture, curtain lights, this is it, the night of nights, and oh, what heights we'll hit, on with the show, this is it. So we've been practicing our parts. We've been getting deja vu from glitches in the matrix. So we've been remembering our past dress rehearsals. And so now this is it. Everyone that's going to wake up, not everyone's going to wake up, unfortunately. Not all the players are going to wake up. But we're at a certain point where time is crucial. Like time is ticking, so to speak. So things are getting more and more crucial for us to actually do what we can to raise up and make sure that we're on the right timeline.
Let me steal a line from a guy I like to watch on YouTube. He says, "Is it possible? Is it possible that there are multiple games being played?" And so I understand what you're saying, but I guess my thought process is, and I'll tell you some examples of what I went through in the past month. To say we talked about self-awareness, and I spoke about that a little bit. I mean, is it possible that some people are not playing on the same game? They're literally they're not playing our game. They're playing a different game, whatever that game might be for them or for their perspective. Are they playing a different game? Is that possible? Because I'm getting the feeling that they're not playing my game.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is, so I'll give you some example. I'll let you talk right now, but I have some examples after you speak. I'll tell you why I say that they're not playing the same game.
Okay. Yes. So basically what I would say is that there's a big game going on between two major factions, one trying to keep the world asleep and into the age of chaos, and another one trying to do their chess moves to, awaken humanity as much as possible. And then there are all these other chess games going on. Like there could be, I don't know, countless other chess games. And sometimes some of the chessboards kind of touch each other. And so one game could be interlocked with another one, but there could be so many more that have nothing to do with it. So yes, it's all different levels, and how they're locked together depends on who the players are and what they're doing.
Yep, and what their perception is. So I went to New York with my son to go train for this franchise that I'm moving back to Florida doing, and I had a few instances where stuff popped up, and again I logged back in, try to make some things happen, and I had two perspectives. First of all, it seems like where I am now, I live in Savannah, which is not really on a certain frequency level of mind control. When you go to New York or you go to Boston, when you go to these big cities, to me, it really, really feels and seems like we're in a whole nother level of mind control. Like everything is so interlocked and you can't break out of it. And that's why people never leave there, to be honest. That's my opinion. So I'm in this city, in New York City, in Manhattan, and I had two separate instances, and then one happened right after I got back. So these are my three instances that happened that I looked at them and I just was dumbfounded, because it's a perfect example of self-awareness and them playing a different game. So they're in the city. These are people from New York, right? So I'm talking to this guy. He's a CEO of this company and really smart guy, really with it. Like he's a really smart guy. And I start talking about some of the things, and he's around our age. So I'm talking about some of the Mandella Effect things and Ed McMahon and whatever. And I told him a few of these things, and he's like, yeah. And then I go, what do you think about that? And he goes, it's weird, isn't it? And then just boom, change the subject. Next thing. Yeah. How about the Mets? Hey, baseball. So I'm like, I'm just looking like he's not playing the same game that I'm playing. I'm not saying I'm above him. I'm not saying he's above. I'm just saying, how somebody can tell you something like that you agree with, and your discernment says that's not right, but I'm just going to move on and just play another game.
Yeah.
So then there's another example I had. This one is really, really good. So I was taking sitting in a classroom for hours on end. It's like 10-hour class. Me and my son are there, and we're learning new stuff. We're hurting, sitting in class, getting up and down, moving around. And the instructor is an English guy, and he's traveling all over the place, and he's training and development and whatever. He's a really cool dude, personable wise. So I'm pouring some kratom into my drink, and I'm shaking it. And some girl says, "Hey, what are you taking?" And I said, "Oh, it's something for my pain. I have like a low level of lupus, and I'm getting really tense right now, and my muscles are hurting." So I shake it, I drink it, and the instructor goes, "Oh yeah, I have to have my turmeric. I got to have my turmeric, my turmeric tea." And I looked at him and I was like, "Oh, this is going to be good." He's 100% in on this turmeric, right? He's taking 4 or 5 turmeric teas as we're teaching the class. He's teaching the class, and so I looked at him and I go, "It's not turmeric. Are you aware of that? Like it's turmeric." A lot of people think it's turmeric. I was one of them. It's crazy how it kind of turned from turmeric to turmeric. And he's like, "It's not turmeric?" I go, "No, it's turmeric. There's an R in there." He goes, "Yeah, I guess there is, isn't there?" And so he just glanced right over it and kept on chugging. So the next day I go up, we're on the bottom. It's a share space. I go up on this cafe on the upper west side, and there's a cafe up top of the training center where they share space. And on the sign, it says turmeric tea. Is a chalkboard sign. TUMERIC. And I wanted to get a picture of it. I didn't get it because I ran out of there catching a flight the next day. But I was like, so he's reading the sign. He's been taking turmeric likely for 10 years, I'm going to guess. A lot, like me and Chad would take a turmeric every day. And we know it wasn't turmeric, but the sign said turmeric. And again, I presented it to him, and like it's like one of the things that he's going to take supplement wise that he's never going to forget his life, but he's going to keep calling it turmeric, TUMERIC, even though he looked at the sign and said turmeric. It said turmeric on the sign, and it telling him it's turmeric, he's just like, "Oh yeah, that's weird." Boom, next thing, and I'm like, they're not playing the same game as me, Chris. Like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, you know what? Before I knew what a Mandela effect was, somebody got me on the turmeric thing, because I went out to dinner with someone and turmeric was brought up, and they said, no, that's not it. And they told me how it's spelled now. And I'm like, no, that's completely wrong. And the person bet me $50. They said, I'll bet you $50 that I'm right. And I'm like, all right, I'm taking on this bet. And I lost. But you know what? I was thinking, I was just like,
you were dumbfounded. Like, how is that possible?
Yeah. It's like, yeah, exactly. So sometimes there's like a certain like awakening energy that people have to start to get before it starts to click. And it depends on who you're talking to, you know, what their wake up date is, you know, are they a player? Are they an NPC? Like there's different levels of, so yeah. But when you talk to somebody about these things and it really gets them, it's probably time for them to wake up.
Yeah. Again, I go back to the thing that popping in my head now is just that they're not playing the same game as that I'm playing and that we're playing. And I think that's one of the things about the chessboard analogy that I like is that there are games on the chessboard like checkers, and I'll look them up, line of actions, Martian chess, bite, impasse, cage, arima, focus, all the king's men's another game, creepy freaks, Alaska, nightmare chess, breakthrough, petting zoo gangster, street soccer. Like there are probably 100 games that you play on a chessboard, and you know we maybe can't play 2 games on one chessboard, but if the chessboard was big enough, we could, and we could be doing the ascension game and the wake up game. And is it possible again that some people are playing a different game of maybe their self-awareness, maybe they're stuck in a soul trap, and for them it is a soul trap, they can't get out.
Yeah, so I can give you an example too of how like the chess game is played between, let's say, opposing factions related to world dominance. Okay, I'll give you an example, and this for a lot of people, this is a new Mandela effect. It was for me the other week, and it's something called the Bellamy Salute. Now, I had never heard of what the Bellamy Salute is, but it's truly fascinating.
I'm gonna have to fast forward, but keep talking. I'll get to it. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, not that one.
Yeah, I know. I put it as a slideshow, so it's gonna have to pass through.
Okay. Perfect. Will you be able to like click on that Wikipedia page, or is it only a slide through?
It's a slide through.
Okay, so you won't be able to see the individual pictures of how we saluted the flag in the United States of America for 50 years. So I'll just explain this, and anybody that wants to further investigate it, just go to Wikipedia and type in the Bellamy Salute, and this will come up. So, and by the way, Bellamy is Bellamy. Mm-hmm. It was instituted in the 1890s. For 50 years, when you said the Pledge of Allegiance, you did not put your hand over your heart. Instead, you stood up, you faced the flag, you clicked your heels together, and you said the Pledge of Allegiance.
You said, I want to go home?
What?
You said, I want to go home? I don't want to be in Kansas anymore?
Yeah, well, it feels like that, right? So now let me rewind a little bit. So this whole concept of the Pledge of Allegiance, people don't realize it, but when the Civil War was happening, the northern states and the northern military would test your allegiance by making you recite something similar to the Pledge of Allegiance. And if you wouldn't say it, you were branded as a traitor. So that was like, that's how this whole Pledge of Allegiance came about. People don't realize that. It was kind of like pretty shady to begin with. So
like a cult.
Now, for 50 years, it's like the Nazi salute. You know, you hold your hand out, mm-hmm. you click your heels together. And this is I'm gonna read the exact words of what you would say. You would say, I pledge allegiance to my flag and the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Wow.
And there's no God in there at this point anyway. So basically, this person, Francis Bellamy, who wrote it, turns out he was a socialist. He was a socialist who wrote this Pledge of Allegiance, where you would have to do like the Nazi Heil Hitler. And it wasn't until I think the end of 1942 into the beginning of 1943 is when they finally changed it and made it so that you put your hand over your heart instead of doing that. So just think about that. If you're already like in a country that's acting like the Nazi, because everyone knows the Nazis for the Heil Hitler, right?
Yeah.
If you're in a country that already has that mentality going, it's a way to penetrate the psyche of the country. So, and there's more to this too. I could bring out, but I don't know if you have any questions so far, and then I can tell you a little bit more about it.
No, but on behalf of all the Francises, and I'm a Francis, so Francis Bellamy and Francis Scott Key, and now Pope Francis. On behalf of all the Francises, this is not a Nazi thing that I enjoy.
Oh, okay. Well, that's appreciated. Yeah. So now, so like chess moves. So there's all these Mandela effects related to the Nazis and related to Hitler. And, Hitler now has blue eyes. Hitler and some of the SS officers now wear white uniforms. And that was on one of the slides that I sent you to.
I can bring that up. Give me a second.
Yeah, they call them.
We got to get through it.
The summer whites. Yeah. So, and some people are like, of course, Hitler wore white in the summer. It was cooler. I'm like, I've never seen Hitler wear white. Okay, and other SS officers wear white, but it's a thing. And could that have been a representation of something called the white hats and the dark hats, and the white hats trying to infiltrate, chess moves? So many other Mandela effects too. Like, for example, in January of 1942, there was a German U-boat that entered New York Harbor and bombed this English oil tanker called the Coimbra, and blew it up in New York Harbor. There were 5,000 people that were killed outside off the New England and Eastern coast by German submarines during World War II. So there are all these like very interesting back and forth Mandela effects, chess moves. Okay, you make this chess move, I'll do this chess move. You try to infiltrate us with white hats, we're going to try to infiltrate your company with a Hail Hitler type, like Pledge of Allegiance. And I'll just say one more thing about this. Bellamy, okay? Bellamy. So sometimes the frequencies of a word or a name mean something. So if you break down that word, bell, a bell makes like a vibration. It's like a sound frequency. And then you have a, and then you have me, or it's spelled here M-Y, but it's pronounced me. So M-E, me, is also an abbreviation for Mandela effect. So just the name Bellamy could mean, translate that to, it sounds like a Mandela effect, or it has the frequency of a Mandela effect. So I thought that was interesting too. But to me, it's like so many of these different Mandela effects, especially the ones on a larger scale having to do with countries and wars and conflicts, I definitely see those as chess moves in a game for a type of dominance. So,
yep.
There you go.
Definitely seems like it. All right, I'm going to pull up the other one now that we got to that. And you had Nazi timeline insertion in Mount Odin. You want to speak on that one?
Yes. Yeah. So this is interesting too, because like Nazis making timeline insertions, like where are they doing that from? And when I was starting, the information started to flow from the records, I was getting, there's some kind of a Nazi base in Antarctica. I'm like, okay, where in Antarctica is it? Oh, it's in the Asgard mountain range. And it's funny because the Nazis were all into like the Norse mythology and Asgard. Okay, where exactly is it? Mount Odin? There's some kind of an underground base in Mount Odin. So again, like information that sounds like kind of like way out there, but is it possible? So these are the types of things that I tune into, that start to kind of make on another level, people can start to piece things together where maybe this is possible. And there's other, and then you look at other evidence, related to how this could possibly be. Like, could the Nazis still be around? Or I think they're known as the Germans now. Yeah, and you compare that to what other people talk about, and then the puzzle pieces start to fall together.
Well, it's interesting that the Marvel movie that had Asgard, I think it's called Asgard with Thor. The Asgard planet was actually flat. I don't know if you're aware of that. It's
No,
a flat planet, and I
like a
believe
pancake.
it's raised up. Yeah, it looks like a pancake.
Okay.
But of all the disinformation stuff about the flat Earth and things like that, they like to show stuff in movies. Obviously, you know that. So Asgard is actually flat. I was watching that when you dialed in right now. It was Marvel, and it said Asgard is flat. I was like, I don't think I remembered that, but okay,
Huh.
interesting.
Yeah, and there was a scene too in the Loki series where Khan the Conqueror, I think his name is, at the end was explaining about how he was dominating all the timelines and how he was doing things to make it so that there wasn't too much deviance because it was leading all the universes into chaos. But he was explaining how one universe, all the universes are stacked on top of each other. And it's the same way with Earth and the realities that are here. All the, when I skate into it, there's like over 1 million realities on Earth, like literally over 1 million different things, whether it's this Earth like that we know of, or the Wizard of Oz, all these different types of realities that are there, and they're right there. They're right here. They're just vibrating at a different frequency so that we
Just gotta
can't
tap into it.
Yeah, we can only stay in ours unless we find a Stargate or a portal, or we have some kind of something in our DNA that allows us to travel, to different realms.
Yeah, I've been trying to jump. I've had a couple interesting, I would guess I call them dreams, but quantum jumping and moving into some things. And in some of my dreams, I was actually awake, touching things. And I was like, wow, I'm really doing this. I'm really touching this. This is so real, not like a dream at all. And then I would say, no, I want to go back. And and I woke up and I was like, okay, was that a dream or is that not a dream? Like I was physically touching something, thinking about that.
Yeah.
The Asgard thing is really interesting as far as that's concerned. I really recently started watching a flat Earth guy that apparently he's super famous. I had not heard of him before, like a few weeks ago. His name is Austin Whitsitt. Have you heard of him?
No.
Fantastic to watch. I'm sure Chad's not seen him either. But he's a physicist, I believe, and he goes about it from a number of different angles. Not like David Weiss. He's friends with David Weiss, but he's actually clipped on his channel a guy that I've talked about, Professor Dave, who's a first class piece of crap person, and he actually clipped a thing about Dave, and Dave actually says that he hires people to give him information. He doesn't know anything about anything. Thought that was pretty interesting. The guy, is quick to make people feel less than intelligent, and actually he has no idea what's going on. He's paying people to give him information.
Yeah, and remember, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Don't let yourself get trapped.
Don't get attached. Yeah.
Don't get attached to anything. I call myself a shapeshifter earther. I'm like, okay, today it's this, and tomorrow it could be something else. It could be
because whatever you want to play into. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, I don't want to be because sometimes people just argue about it, and it's like, it just doesn't get anywhere. And I've got proof of this, and I've got proof. Like, everyone's going to have their own proof.
Everybody's got proof. Yeah.
But if we're in a mainframe computer, does it?
Right.
There's that whole concept.
It goes back to how malleable is this place.
Yeah, it's almost like we're the Sims, and we've like figured out we're the Sims in a game, and we're banging on the computer screen like, let me out.
I'm not ready to get out yet. I want to play around.
Well, yeah. Well, exactly.
So,
That's the purpose. 3D. You beer, pizza, and nachos. Like, all these experiences. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so we did that one. You want to talk about the Titanic and the smokestacks?
Yeah. So this, a while ago, I spoke about this. I think I spoke about it on Chad's channel. It was a Mandella effect where the smokestacks of the Titanic are now like a golden yellow color. So I believe it'll be, yeah. So because I've done a lot of research on the Titanic, and I made like a few videos about the Titanic. And then there was one point a few months ago, I'm looking at a picture, I'm like, well, somebody's got the smokestack color wrong. And then everywhere I went, it's all that same golden yellow smokestack, including the movie The Titanic that came out in the 90s. And I'm like, what is going on? So what, again, tuning into that, going from what I remember it being like red and black, as a lot of people remember, it was like those definitely darker colors. And now it's like a golden yellow color, golden timeline, solar plexus energy, which is like a strong sun kind of energy, tuning into the fact that the souls that went down with the ship are doing a lot better. And that's being manifested by having these, yellow smokestacks, including there's pictures you can find of the officers of the Titanic. At least on another ship, all called the Olympia, they would wear white uniforms. And again, like the summer whites, like Hitler and the Nazis wore their summer white uniforms. And now the officers are wearing like white uniforms. Could that be that there was a possibility that they were being infiltrated by this whole, white hat concept? And, there's a level of the way the games are played, for those types of things to exist, but that's another story. So, okay, spirits are doing better. When the Titanic went down, it was literally a ritual sacrifice. JP Morgan wasn't on that ship, and all of his priceless art wasn't on it. What's that?
And Rockefeller wasn't on the ships.
Yeah, all these people that wanted the Federal Reserve and the new banking system, that stood against it were on that ship. So isn't it interesting that they all went down? So it was a ritual sacrifice. And then what happened a year later? Then the Federal Reserve came into existence, the banking system, which only serves the elites. It's not for the people, so to speak. So, and then in the news, we have this whole thing about this Titan sub, where the 5 people on board, the sub imploded and they all died. And so how could this be related to all that?
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to kind of bring out, some possibilities of what that might be for people to have like another thought process as to what's going on in this game. Because if things like chess moves and, ritual sacrifice, things that you do to like make your outcome work versus another outcome to be successful or not successful, there could be evidence in what's going on with this. And so if the spirits that went down with the Titanic are doing well, that means that ritual sacrifice isn't working too well. And the Federal Reserve is about to make some big moves. They have something called the Central Bank Digital Currency, the CBDC, which is about to start in the next month or so. How much do you know about that?
I know a little bit about it. I don't follow too much of the news, but I do know that the central digital bank currency has been trying to get pulled out for a while.
Yeah, so they're rolling it out. It has like zero privacy. It's programmable, which means that if the government decides,
edit it.
Yeah, or you're not allowed to buy a certain kind of car because you said negative things on Facebook, or whatever rules they come out with, they can program it so you could have 1 million of these currencies, tokens, whatever you want to call it, and you can't spend it. Or they could take it away from you and be like, "This wasn't yours to begin with, so we're just going to take it back." So it's an attempt to make their citizens more loyal, because they'll control their money in the same way like they can't necessarily control cash, so to speak, or with the systems that are out there now are harder. And if the CBDC takes a hold, there's probably going to be more bank failures, because a lot of the smaller banks aren't ready for this at all, which means there'll be further consolidation, which means
they won't want many of those banks to be able to toggle those people's accounts. I mean, they don't want people to be able to have access to it, even through small channels like smaller banks. And people have been aware of this for a while, and the social credit score and things like that. But
right.
I got to tell you, That's been going on for a long time, and I can actually probably prove it as far as social credit is concerned with credit. I have like perfect credit, and I can go on Discover, and if I do certain things that are probably, I don't know, talked about or not talked about. Anyway, my credit score should be perfect. And on Discover and other credit bureaus, because I haven't been paid as a W-2 employee for a while, in my opinion, this is my opinion, that my credit is getting knocked down, not paying taxes the way they want me to pay taxes. I've created business for myself, and I've created income stream for myself. They're not happy with that. So my credit score, actually my credit has gone down. And on my Discover score, it'll tell you exactly why your credit is what. And it'll say like your score is 760. Okay, maybe that's a good credit score, but mine should be like 830, 840. I have zero credit. I have one car payment for 3 people in my home. I own the other 2 cars. I have nothing on my credit. I have no aside from revolving credit. I only have about $1,000, $2,000 a month from that. But it'll say negatives, missed payments, and then below that it'll say no missed payments. So they're manipulating that score for sure, 100%, based on, in my opinion, not paying federal taxes the way that they want me to pay them. Right. And I'm still a taxpayer, but I don't pay them the way they want me to pay them. I'm not paying them extra money. That's my opinion of how that works. But my point is, my score is much lower because of other factors. Whether I know what those factors are or not, my score should be perfect. And it's saying my negatives, there's no negatives there, but it's still pulling it down. And when I go to talk to financial advisors or mortgage brokers or whatever it is, I'll say, how is my score that score? And they'll say, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. You don't have any negatives here at all. And so they're manipulating social credit as we speak. They've been doing it for a while, actually.
Yeah, and even think what they did in Canada to anybody that donated to the truckers. Remember how when the truckers were
protesting? Yeah, they froze their accounts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not
right. I mean, people who think that this is something coming and they're afraid of it, they already have access to that fully. I mean, they have the phones tapped. They've recorded everything we say. They have all that access anyway. The only thing they haven't done yet is make the incidents, the false flag events. They haven't created those laws to make it legal, but they have the backside of it already done, for sure.
Yeah, and just having this type of digital currency, it just makes it easier for them.
That much easier. Yep.
That much. That's all. Especially they can consolidate.
And these are all black budget projects, so there'll be nobody accountable for everyone's stuff getting turned off. They'll say, we don't know what happened. We didn't do it. Well, who are you accusing of doing that? And nobody's name will be on those programs.
Yeah. Meanwhile, this is literally a type of cryptocurrency, but then they're also trying to shut down all the other cryptocurrencies.
Yeah. Didn't they just lose another $100 billion? Wasn't that reported the other day that they couldn't track it? The IRS again lost $100 billion in the Fed again or something.
I'm not aware.
I'm pretty sure it's like $100 billion got lost again.
Okay, well, in any event, the whole reason I'm saying this too is that the Federal Reserve, ritual sacrifice. If what they did for the Titanic is not working anymore like it did before, they may need like another ritual type sacrifice, and maybe that Titan sub sinking had something to do with it. And I'll explain to you what I mean. And there's a couple of things too. The other thing too is that it could just have been a big distraction, because that same time everyone's thinking about these people that are they alive? Are they dead? Right. Whatever. At that same time, there were 47 million emails related to J.P. Morgan and Jeffrey Epstein that were released and then, oopsie, mistakenly deleted, which is weird. And then the other thing is Joe Biden is going through an impeachment vote. There's like another $6 billion that went to the Ukraine last week that hardly anyone spoke about. And then, Hunter Biden gets a slap on the wrist while the FBI whistleblowers are all starting to like disappear. So, so it just shows you that manipulation. Like, people were distracted with one thing. The news barely reported these other things, but just the Titan sub was all that we saw. And then maybe is there another angle to that too? Like, could the passengers on that sub have been something to do with the ritual sacrifice of the Titanic to strengthen that and to strengthen the Federal Reserve. So, okay, so let me go back a step.
Do you think that was some kind of an energy exchange? Is that what you were getting at before?
Okay, yeah. So what I could do is I'll liken it to Topsy the elephant. Have you ever heard me talk about Topsy the elephant?
Yeah, you talked about it on this show, actually. I think on this
Okay.
this forum.
Okay, so I'll just review it real quick too. But I believe the year was 1902 or maybe January of 1903. I can't remember. This elephant named Topsy was electrocuted because she was branded a man killer because somebody in New York put out their lit cigarette on her trunk, and she got all mad and sat on the guy who was also drunk, I think, at the same time. And so she was branded a man killer. So Thomas Edison's film company filmed the electrocution, and they needed so much electricity, they had to tie her to the train tracks. And then what happened was, from the Akashic records, and this was actually a chess move by Topsy, her consciousness was brought into the newly formed New York City electrical power grid, which is kind of crazy. And there's soft disclosure in movies about that, about your consciousness going into like a mainframe computer like Tron or Jumanji, where the kids go into the video game. So there's some kind of, there is soft disclosure about that to some extent in different movies. So, why did Topsy do that? And there's various reasons. One was the electric chair, because what started happening in the 1920s is that these people that were convicted of like the worst crimes were being executed in the electric chair. And what would happen if you were killed in the electric chair is that your consciousness and any other entities that were attached to you were sucked right into the New York City power electric grid. So Topsy became like a kind of superhero to kind of make that better for us, because the outcome for humanity wasn't good unless we had some positive things going on. So I know that sounds kind of out there, but for some people that listen to me, it starts to make sense. And Topsy's actually communicated with some people. So some people that watch my channel are like, oh yeah, Topsy's been talking to me about this or that. So, okay. So that's one concept I wanted to share. So is it possible the Titan sub goes down there, it gets to where the Titanic is, there's a catastrophic failure, whatever it is, and it implodes, and the consciousness of those 5 people on board, including any entities that may have walked into them. And when I look at their pictures and I scan through them, I'm like, oh my, you guys have had some interesting creatures jump into your consciousness field. So could there be some very negative entities that were part of these people? And I'm not saying it's their fault or anything, but they were down there for the ride, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
They go down to that level, and then they're able to do something on a whole other level to try to make that ritual sacrifice even stronger and wreak havoc with the survivors. So, and then as I was doing some research about this the other day, I started getting these like electric shocks on my hand. And I'm like, oh, when that happens to me, that usually means something's trying to communicate. So I'm like, okay, who is this? It's a group of people. Where are you from? The Titanic. I'm okay. Oh, the Titanic. Is there one person in particular that wants to talk to me? Yes, it's a male. Who is it? Like, oh, it's John Astor. And I don't know if you know, but John Astor was like, at the time, he was the richest man in the world. And he went down with the Titanic, and he was against the Federal Reserve. And he was on his way to meet Tesla. And they were like, they had a falling out, and they decided to make amends, and they're going to be starting to work on this big project that could have changed history, related to free energy on another level. So all these different things at play. So basically they were saying that they needed some support down there. So the reason I wanted to talk to you today is anyone that's listening, your higher self may have the ability to kind of join forces and help out the people from the Titanic. I know that sounds a little kind of way out there, because they're going through something right now, and I think they're going to be fine. And I think that at least on the golden timeline, the Federal Reserve and what they're trying to do, I don't think it's going to be successful. It can't be, because that's just one more thing to like lock humanity into the age of chaos. And that's a timeline that we don't want. So yeah, so Titan sub, Titanic, survivors, ritual sacrifice, Federal Reserve, banking system, could all these things be related and part of like a game? Like, could this be a type of game thing going on? So more things to think about and expand your consciousness.
Yep. More things to talk about. Speaking of which, I understand that you'll be going overseas to Ireland to expand your consciousness. Do you want to talk about that for a second?
Yeah. So, you spelled IMEC wrong.
Oh, I did.
It's
IMAC, right?
IMEC.
EC.
Yep.
Mandela Effect Conference. Yep.
Yep.
IMEC.
Yeah. So, in any event, going to Ireland in a week or so. Yeah, got some really cool things going with a group of people. The main thing is going to an island called Dunangus, where there is a we'll call it a soul shard library that was instituted at the time of Atlantis, before the final cataclysm. And a lot of us had deposited, we'll call it like in safe deposit boxes, these important soul shards, these important memories and pieces of information, etc., from other lifetimes that we've lived, knowing that there would be a time in the future, and I believe that time is coming up, where we'd be able to go there on a higher dimensional level, be able to open that library, get it set up, and for anyone else around the planet that has also been able to, from that was also lived at the time of Atlantis, that would like their soul shards back, because a lot of people deposited them there, they would have that opportunity to do that. And it's not like they're going to be given freely out. You have to be worthy to get them back. And I'm sure there'll be like a TSA type arrangement to make sure that only the proper people can go and get them, and et cetera. So that's going to be the main thing. And there's so many other little areas all around Ireland we're going to visit. And yeah, it should definitely be a trip that, again, is going to change, I think, timelines, and something that's like going to be real positive for the planet.
So do you have an intention of the soul shards?
Yeah. So one of the things too about like people are, you could still, I mean, this library on this island isn't the only place soul shards are. Like, we have soul shards. So some beings will steal our soul shards. There'll be entities out there that actually have taken possession of our soul shards because we didn't know how to defend them. So a lot of us are starting to get those soul shards back. They're kept in all these different areas, but they're ours. Like, for each one of us, like it's our birthright to get our soul shards back. But one of the first things that we talk about is when they start to come back, it's almost like if you think yourself as a crystal, and then each of these shards is filling in another part to make you like more complete. Wherever these soul shards come from, they need to be purified and healed before you integrate them. So it's not just a matter of getting them back, but it's a matter of making sure that they're in a good condition before you do the integration. So again, it's like playing a game. It's literally like playing a game and getting these pieces that were taken from you, because a lot of us are walking around and we're like 90% incomplete, 90% or more. I think most people have less than 5% of their soul shards walking around. So we want to do all these things to start to get them back, get all of our gifts back, get our DNA activated, and all these, like, we've learned so much, like in past lives, we've become masters. Like, we've mastered so many different subjects and topics and, whatever it is. So getting them back is a way to integrate that without having to spend more lives over and over again to try to get that knowledge back. So there's a lot to these soul shards.
Awesome. That's going to be an interesting conversation to have when you come back. So maybe you'll come back and talk to us about that. I'm sure you'll have it on your channel as well. the last part is the IMEC is coming up Labor Day weekend, the 2nd to the 4th. What is that in? What city is that in? I'm trying to type it up.
That's going to be in Branford, Branford, Connecticut.
Branford, Connecticut. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, and that's where I am.
Oh, that's where you are. Okay.
Yeah,
So are you taking a flight, or how are you going to get there?
Yeah, I might walk. It's going to be one of two things. If we get a certain number of people, like we're thinking 30 or 40 people, it's actually going to be probably literally in my office, because I have this huge conference room.
Oh, wow.
And then 2 other conference rooms. If we get more than that, up to 100, it's going to be at the Branford Library, and they could hold it. There's 100 seating for 100 there, and it's like a theater type of a thing there. So depending on how many people come is where we're going to hold it, but it's all going to be in the same town.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So that's where you live, or that's where your business is?
Both. Well,
both.
I live in a neighboring town, but my business is here in this town called Branford, and we're about like maybe 10 minutes from New Haven. So if anybody was to fly in, there's a small New Haven airport. It's a small airport, and there's an airline called Avelo. It's only one airline that services it. So sometimes people can get a direct flight depending on where they are into New Haven. Otherwise, the next closest airport is Hartford, Connecticut. And that's about an hour away.
Okay, cool. Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate the time you've given, and I know you could have chose to spend this in a number of different ways. You could have dressed up like what's the dude you just did? The Greatest Show. You could have been the Greatest Showman.
Okay.
Showed up again.
Yeah, true. I could have also been Elvis.
Could have been Elvis. You have July 4th plans? What are you going on? What's going on tomorrow?
Yeah, like for tomorrow.
You're not going to jump in the electrical grid, are you? For fireworks?
I'm taking this sub down to the Titanic to meet with the spirits.
It could be a sacrifice. You may not want to do that.
Yeah, no, I should have a quiet July 4th. What about you, Ken?
I got family coming in town. They're actually already here, banging on the door.
Oh,
so they'll be here. That's my 8-year-old trying to get in.
Okay.
See what I was doing. But yeah, they're traveling from New York, and they're coming over, and we're gonna have a big lunch tomorrow, and probably go to the pool and hang out and just enjoy life.
Beautiful. That's what you should do. It's all about the experiences.
Yep. All right, man. I appreciate it. We'll catch up soon. But thanks for coming on.
Yo, just one more thing.
Go for it. Yep.
If anyone's interested in going to the IMEC conference, go to IMEC.world. That's our website, and there's information on there, and there's a link you can buy your ticket on Eventbrite. So
IMEC.world?
IMEC.world.
That I can't spell. RLD. That's the website. Tickets.
Remember, jump at least 100 timelines.
So they may not hear that. Repeat that again.
Yes. So
what is your personal guarantee?
My personal guarantee is that you'll jump at least 100 timelines, and you're going to see some glitches in the matrix.
Yeah, I can't go for that. I've seen enough. I'm trying to see less. If I go, can you guarantee that I'll see less?
No, but I think you want to see more, because that means things are changing around you. Like I don't ever like these Mandela effects, and these glitches should keep increasing. Deja vu should keep increasing. All these things are going to happen more and more, and it's all really positive, super positive when you see it. So
okay,
don't get freaked out.
I like the world that I live in now. Well, most of it, unless I have to speak to someone who's not having a good time on this thing, then I empathize. But I like to keep this the way it is. Ramp up a little bit would be nice. Not go the other way. So
right,
keep it working.
Right.
But Chris, I appreciate it, man. Have a great holiday. Enjoy. And if you have anything else pop up, let me know.
I will.
You know where I am.
I do. Nice talking to you, Ken.
All right, brother.
Okay.